So now I'm ready to go back to women's issues and maybe conclude on just one or two points. The in issues that come up with women's roles in Jewish communal life, have they ever been represented? Meaning, and I have to step back also for a second and offer a qualifying statement to something you said earlier, that there are certainly plenty of issues that we've just become normal. We've come to an understanding. But there are also constantly new issues that come up in a lot of different areas, but right now we're focusing on women's practice and roles. There are new issues that come up all the time, where there's the avant-garde and there's the cutting edge, and the question is, when decisions are made and leadership comes to a head, is there representation of women as a viewpoint, as a community? Are there people making decisions saying, well, how would I feel if I was a woman and I wanted to practice in this way, or I wanted to?
I think that you have to recognize that there are a lot of women. Women who are being educated in the Beit Yaakov system, for example, or other schools that are like that. And maybe even to the right of Beit Yaakov, there are lots and lots and lots of women who are not part of this revolution and who don't feel the way that some of these more modern women feel. And the fact that there is this kind of difference of opinion, this large body of women, versus this other not so large body of women, makes it hard for this other group of women to create a dynamic in their favor. But generally, real issues are addressed at the end of the day.
That's what I want to know. Is it based on, and do we have an ideal of representation? Representing the perspective, the desires of the women. Everybody, and whether, there may be people proposing that the way that representation should occur now is by women being involved in the decision-making process itself. But even without that, the question is whoever's making the communal decisions, do they have in mind representing the desires that they're faced with?
Well, I can't answer the question of a particular person, but I think yes. I think that's look. You don't become a leader if you don't have a community. You don't get the attention of the people unless the people feel you're giving them attention. So that it's not every great scholar who becomes the leader of the Jewish people. Now, Moshe Feinstein was a great scholar and a great posek, and he achieved leadership because everybody knew that he was concerned about them. The Lubavitcher Rebbe, unlike many other Rebbeim in modernity, achieved a certain kind of leadership because he convinced a lot of different kinds of Jews in a lot of different kinds of places that he was concerned about them and their issues. So leadership, by definition, has to do with concern. There's a certain lack of clarity, I imagine, amongst the leadership as to what is going on and where it's going to. And therefore, there's a kind of a sensitivity and a lack of enthusiasm, even perhaps, for what seem to be legitimate arguments. And in time, that will change. I mean, it's true that religion and people who are poskim tend to be very conservative, and they find things staying the same as being advantageous, and change is always problematic. Nevertheless, we see that there's change going on all the time. The things are happening all the time. So I think in this case, whatever should happen will happen. It will happen. And it will happen with the approval of the leadership, halachic leadership, rabbinic leadership. It will happen. But until it happens, the people involved are going to have to be very, very devoted, both to the general sphere of Jewish interest and to their particular interest and things that they might want to change. But I mean, that's the way I understand it. Perhaps it's too much of a relativistic position.
Well,
but I don't think that the revolution will be one day to the next. It'll take time. But if it's true, and if the women are expressing a true feeling and true needs, then of course it'll happen, because truth always wins.
Well, do you agree that there might be, it might be necessary, I mean, that it perhaps is necessary to have women, halachic religious leaders, representing that perspective?
As women and religious leadership, I think women have been religious leaders for many years. I mean, as far as I know in history, I mean, women paskin shilas in the kitchen. They are in charge of taras and mishpacha. They're in charge of the religious development of their children.
But in terms of representation in the communal direction.
Okay, but I'm saying that the women are not just out of it. You know, it's not true that the women are not part of this system of doing mitzvahs and trying to come close to HaKadosh Baruch Hu and all of that. So women say if a woman says she wants to be president of the shiur. So it's hard for me personally to be sympathetic. I don't want to be president of the shiur. I mean, if a woman says she wants to lane. So I don't get it. In my shiur is a guy, we pay him and he lanes every week. Every week, no one else ever lanes. I said, why would anybody want to lane? I mean, it's like a big tircha. The way it shakes out is usually there's one guy who does it. Like everybody's bar mitzvah. Everybody lanes a little bit at their bar mitzvah, and then they forget about it. And one person in 10 years becomes a Baal Koreh. So not that I'm not sympathetic. I mean, I just don't get it. You know, right. I don't understand what the issue is. But okay.
So then, I mean, going back to the beginning, and maybe this is a good place to conclude. Where you did get it is in Talmud Torah.
Right. There I got it. But I don't think that I imagine that women have legitimate positions about other things, but I personally don't understand that. Right? So okay. I mean, if a woman says to me she wants to stand, she'd rather daven on this side of the mechitza, you know, like where I've been davening my whole life. I said, well, I'd rather daven at the balcony, you know, by myself, where I wouldn't be annoyed by people talking all the time, or all this thing with people walking around and doing business in shul. I said, okay, you know, like everybody sees their own position as being the weaker kind of, the one that needs to be corrected and fixed. So some things I understand, and women wants to participate in the Torah conversation around the table on Shabbos. That I understand. If for some reason she can't do that, I would fight that fight. A woman tells me she wants to lane. I mean, I don't understand what she's talking about, because nobody lanes. That's the way it is in most shuls, or many shuls. I don't know about most.
But maybe there are people out there that do get it, and
Okay.
maybe, and
Good. So
perhaps that there's
fine.
a responsible way.
I am definitely in favor of people expressing their concerns and their needs, and I would hope that in some way the leadership would be responsive to that.
Thank you,
But
David.
I guess not me.
Thank you very much.
All the best.